What up, and greetings! What is this, a card review? I know, I haven't recorded one of these in a while. But with the new Rastakhan Rumble expansion coming out in the next few days, and me being off for the next 2 weeks, I thought I might as well having the time. So let's take a look at all the neutral minions that I've revealed so far. The final reveal stream is coming in about 4 hours time, so I will be recording videos regarding those cards in the upcoming days. I will be thinking about wild primarily in mind, but I will be looking at standard viability and arena as well, where I deem it necessary. Without further ado, let's get straight into the neutral cards. The first one on our list is Manowar Bear. It's a 7 mana 5/7 rush and taunt minion. My favorite mount in WoW, unfortunately, was kind of designed as a pack filler. I mean, it might be good as a reactive card in arena, where it might kill something with 5 health, like a 5/5 minion, and still survive, but on 7 mana it doesn't kill the 6 health minion in one swing, which is not that great, and it's probably a better tempo play to just play a removal like a Deadly Shot or Shadow Word Death, and then play a 4 mana minion with full health afterwards, because even with the taunt it's probably gonna die like to a 2/1 or something after it kills the first minion. Not too great, unfortunately. Amani for the Amani. Anyways, so second card on the list is a belligerent Gnome. It's a 2 mana 1/4 taunt with battle cry. If your opponent has 2 or more minions, gain +1 attack. I think this is a good, well-designed defensive minion. A lot of the cheap minions created to counter aggro in the past, like Tar Creeper or Saranite Chain Gang and Giggling Inventor, have become a double-edged sword because they became included in aggressive decks and actually made them stronger, protecting small minions behind taunt and allowing to push damage more effectively. But it seems like with this card, using it in any other deck than a slower mid-range on control in order to prevent phase damage coming your way won't really be effective, and I like that. So not amazing, but I believe that it might be good enough to be included in those types of decks. Third card is Crowd Roaster. So it's a 7 mana 7/4 dragon with battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, deal 7 damage to an enemy minion. So first dragon that we're taking a look in as an addition to which could play into the new dragon warrior archetype that they seem to be pushing with the latest expansion. Unfortunately, despite the strong effect, I fear the combination of the poor strat distribution and high costs will exclude it from even the slower decks. I mean, 7 mana does make it work for Odd Warrior, but would you rather be playing this or, Mechs and Dr. Boom synergy or something with dragons? I mean, I don't have high hopes for this card, but it might be decent in the end of the day. It's very costly though. Another card is the Undertaker, revealed by my good friend Dane. So it's an 8 mana 8/4 with battle cry. Gain the death rattle effect of 3 friendly minions that die this game. So I'm excited for this card primarily because of wild, and of course it can work in standard, but when the rotation happens next April, we're gonna lose a lot of the potential enablers for this, like Playdead and Katharina, for extra value, and also a couple of others. So we're going to have to see if the cards remaining will carry this through and it won't get silenced that often. Strong card, but the silence absolutely wrecks it. And in wild, obviously, you can play with Sylvanas, you can play with Sneaks, and it's going to be plenty of fun to be had with this happening on stream. Next card we have on the list is Fire Tree Witch Doctor. It's a 2 mana 2/2 battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, discover a spell. I think this is actually pretty decent. That can give you options on turn 2 or 3 depending on what you match up against. And if dragon decks become good after the expansion, or when the next rotation hits, this will definitely have place in them, especially in warrior. Having an extra brawl, an extra warpath or execute or shield slam can make all the difference in trying to protect yourself from early damage. Next card is a legendary card, Grifter, 4 mana 4/5 battle cry. Discover 2 cards, give one of them to your opponent and random. So I actually like this card a lot because it can be played in many different ways. So you can try to discover cards that are only beneficial to your deck or to your board state. Try to pick one great and one really bad card and hope that the 50-50 chance gives it to your opponent, the worst card. Or pick good tempo cards and then take the advantage that you can play your tempo card before your opponent can play his. So it reminds me a little bit of the MTG card called Fact and Fiction, which I would love to be reproduced in some sort of way in Hearthstone. And albeit being kind of close, it's still way too random for it to be like Fact and Fiction, unfortunately. But a cool card nevertheless. The next card on our list is Gurubashi Chicken. It's a 1 mana 1/1 beast overkill, gain +5 attack. I mean, what to say about this card? Probably even worse than Angry Chicken, because if you put, let's say, Mark of a Loa on it, which is the new Druid spell, and you make it into a 3/5, and then it kills something, and it remains like an 8/4, in the most ideal situation, you just spend 2 cards to make an 8/4, and is that any good? No. Anyway, nice meme, but let's move along. The next legendary card on our list is Hakkar the Soulflayer. So, the famous Corrupted Blood boss. It's a 10 mana 9/6 with Death Rattle shuffle Corrupted Blood into each player's deck. Now, what Corrupted Blood does is that when you draw it, it deals 3 damage to you, and then it shuffles 2 copies into your deck. And you also draw another card, which the Corrupted Blood doesn't really specify, but you draw another card following this, so you might just endlessly draw Corrupted Bloods until you die if it comes to it. I think this card is pretty awful because it's so slow, and the setup is basically a double-sided sword, right? Even if you keep the cards for your opponent to draw, you might just get silenced because it's a 10 mana card and you can't do anything on the turn that is being played. It might get a good Troden entry, and it might have something to do in, let's say, Wild, you know, with Thorson, stuff like that, but it's quite terrible, to be honest, and it's very, very slow, and I don't see it being used. Next one is Line Cracker. It's a 7 mana 5/10 overkill, double this minion's attack, and I think this card is actually pretty decent. Yeah, it does suffer from the single target removal, and it's quite costly at 7 mana, but 7 mana has been, you know, traditionally very, very weak in terms of good minions. If it kills something, it goes to 10 attack, and your opponent has to deal with it that turn, because then he can get hit by 10, potentially 20 to the face the turn after. I think decent card, but let's see if it sees any play apart from Arena. Next card on the list is Mars Contender. It's a 3 mana 2/4 with Battlecry. If you control a secret, play another secret from your deck. So obviously mages and hunters are going to be the one liking this card the most. In aggressive mage deck, if you coin out a Kirintor with the secret and they don't trigger it, and then you play this on turn 3, it's mainly game over. Similar to hunter, when you need that extra fuel for Eagle Horn Bow, this might come very handy. I would say it's quite a strong card, and it might see play at least until the next standard rotation happens, and we might lose some of those synergy cards there. Next card is a legendary card. It's probably my favorite card. Well, the effects is my favorite, definitely, so far. It's a 6 mana 5/5 with Battlecry. Set each player to 5 mana crystals. For me, it's kind of a Lothep 2.0 because it disrupts the opponent's game plan in many ways, and it can be used in many potential scenarios where it can help you and disrupt, you know, his combo. It unfortunately does help Algoro decks probably more than it does help control decks, but we'll see about that once we can actually play with the card. And I cannot wait until, you know, Druid ramps to 9 mana using 2 cards on it, and I just slash it back to 5 mana, well, 6 mana next turn, because he's going to gain a mana crystal the turn after. Lots of fun to be had with this card. I think it might be a craft, you know, maybe potentially a golden craft on day 1, and I can't wait to try it out. So Mojo Master gets 5 stars from me. Super cool card. I really appreciate them making it. Next one is Mosh Orc Announcer. It's a 5 mana 6/5. Enemies attacking this have a 50% chance of attacking something else. To attack something else, rather. So it's an interesting take on the ogre mechanic, which was usually that they miss 50% of their hits. So 50% of the time they hit something else. And except for this is in reverse and the minions attacking this hit 50% of the times. I would say it would be better as a 5/6. It could work. Unfortunately, I don't think the effect is strong enough, and I don't see how it could really work in standard decks, which require all minions to be super, super strong. This doesn't really fulfill any specific purpose that I can think of. So, kind of a filler card, unfortunately. Murloc Tasty Fin, 4 mana 3/2 Murloc with Death Rattle. Draw 2 Murlocs from your deck. This card is just way too slow. It's very costly, unless you keep it in as a last card after you played all of your other minions, or are you in top decking mode. It's not really good. It could be good in Wild with things like Finja, because then it really replenishes your board plus your hand at the same time. But I don't think that this card will necessarily make Murloc Quest Shaman work, because nothing really made that deck work so far, but let's see. Next one is another legendary, a big one. It's a 9 mana 7/7 beast with rush and overkill. Summon a beast from your hand. A card that could actually work with Katrina and Big Hunter. The fact that it summons a beast is actually probably more relevant with Deathstalker, Rexar, and making a couple of really big bad boys in your hand and letting them to be summoned with Asta. Also has a pretty good synergy with Flark's Boomzooka, as it leaves the replacement beast, if you have one in hand, despite dying at the end of the turn. I think this could be viable, at least until the next rotation, like I said with many of the cards, but we have to see once we lose, you know, 3 expansions next April. But yeah, I've changed my opinion. I thought that this card is actually pretty rubbish, but I'm gonna move it into the category of semi-decent in specific decks. Next one is Rabble Bouncer. So that's also one of my favorite design-wise made cards. It's a 7 mana 2/7 taunt, so very expensive, but it costs 1 less for each enemy minion. I love this card design because it cannot be misused as a aggro tool, you know, from an anti-aggro tool. If your opponent has 2 minions, it's a 2/7 for 5, so it's not that bad. But if he has 3, it's already a 4 mana 2/7, which is really, really good. Borderline excellent. The only downside is with 2 attack, it might not really kill everything that your opponent, your Smorg opponent, tries to kill it with. So overall, I think it's decent, and it punishes overextending that tiny bit more, and it's a nice card. Next one on the list is Saranai Taskmaster. So again, very interesting card. It's 1 mana 2/3 with Death Rattle. Summon a 0/3 agent with taunt for your opponent. So you can say, oh, it's a very strong aggro card, but it actually summons a taunt for you once you deal with that 2/3. Another use can be if you can summon more of the 0/3 taunts, let's say with the double Death Rattle card, like Baron Rivendell or whatever the name of the Hunter card that they have now, you can potentially fill the entire opponent's board with 0/3 taunts, preventing him to play other minions. And if he doesn't have standalone buffs in hand, not something like a Fungalmancer or something that he cannot play with full board, you're gonna actually win the game because he can't push for any more damage to your face. So very nicely designed card, and I think we'll actually see quite a lot of play. Next one is Sharkfin Fan, 2 mana 2/2 pirate. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 pirate. Nothing too flashy, but actually one of the better pirate cards to come out, simply because it's very low costed and it's got a decent effect. It can work in Druid and Warrior as well, but the more obvious choice is definitely Rogue with all the new cards coming out. And if Pirate Rogues becomes a viable archetype, I can see 2 of these being played in pretty much every variation of the deck. Next one of the list is Sightless Ranger. It's a 5 mana 3/4 rush and overkill summon 2 1/1 bats. This card is mediocre at best. At 5 mana it won't guarantee killing a minion because it only has 3 attack, and if the bats had rush it would be kind of a different story, but they're just plain 1/1 tokens, beast tokens that you can't count on the effect triggering twice or even more times. So the best that you're gonna probably get is a 5/6 body, which is just not good enough, and it's another pack filler in my opinion. Next one is Snapjaw Shell Fighter. It's a 5 mana 3/8. Whenever an adjacent minion takes damage, this minion takes it instead. It reminds me a lot of both Ram Shield, to add the similarities of this expansion being a lot like the Grand Tournament, and hopefully it will have more impact on the game than Grand Tournament had back in the day. Instead of protecting your hero though, which was kind of free damage for your opponent because he could just kill both by attacking your face, it protects another one of your minions, the one next to it. And I mean, I'd probably still rather play a Ziliax in any deck, but as an arena card it might be good. It might be good for like effective trading on that turn. The stats are not that terrible. So let's see. Next one is Soup Vendor. It's a 2 mana 1/4. Whenever you restore 3 or more health to your hero, you draw a card. I would actually say this card is pretty decent because we've seen a lot of health restore effects in the last couple of expansions. From the ones being played, it's like Shroom Brewer, Life Drinker, Dark Pack, Sack Pack, Siphon Soul. You've got a Spellstone Warlock one, but you can also trigger this effect every turn with Benevolent Djinn, which is a Paladin card, assuming that you have free health to heal. And the new Paladin Legendary, the High Priest Akal, which transforms all of your health into armor, apart from 1, can help you with that. Meaning that you can draw like, crazy amounts of cards and your Shrivala earlier on in the game we're getting towards the last free cards. So the next one is Ticket Scalper. It's a 4 mana 5 free with overkill, draw 2 cards. Terribly stat distribution, and unfortunately you can't really count on it to survive until next turn to trigger its effect. Unless it's summoned with Captain Hooktusk, who is the new rogue legendary coming up. You don't really draw cards for this, and it's about as good as Salty Dog was back in the day. Next one is Untamed Beastmaster. It's 3 mana 3/4. Whenever you draw a beast, give it +2/+2. I mean, I guess it's okay. It suffers similar problems to other beast synergy cards without the beast tag, like Wild Walker or Menagerie Warden did in the past. They do synergize with beast cards, but the beast cards don't synergize with them, and I will say that this won't see play. And the last card on our list is none other than Water Boy. It's a 2 mana 2/1 Battlecry. Your next hero power this turn costs 0. Not an amazing or flashy card, but perhaps it could find a way in Zudex, where you can draw an additional card that turn while putting a 2/1 on board. I would say Fencing Coach, which was another TGT card by coincidence, is still better despite costing 3 mana, as it allowed you to keep the free hero power for the turn afterwards if you required it. Yeah, simply better. I think this one won't see play either. So that's it for the neutrals. I will make a final review on the cards released on the stream today, and I will aim to release it tomorrow. Until then, have a good one. Let me know your opinions in the comment sections below, and I will see you very, very soon. Take care. See ya. I've been mesmerized through new times.